order for the regular select board meeting. Any adjustments to the agenda?
I have one.
Okay, and it is
I want to add an appointment for the Wilson Wetland
where do you want to do
Committee.
that?
We can put that,
5E.
yes, please.
Okay. Okay, and then approval of minutes from September 25th and October 9th. So those are the two. Let's see. I think you weren't present for
I
one
can't
of
do
those.
September
Oh, wait, I have the
25th. So you two need to do September 25th and then
Hold on, I
us
got
two to do October 9th.
Okay. We'll wait for this.
I guess we could approve the minutes from October 29th. We don't need to do it in order, do we?
October 9th.
I mean, October 9th,
No, we
yes.
don't. I just didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, she's taking it.
Sure. So motion to approve the minutes of September 25th. Okay, David moved that. I'll second it.
Yep.
And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And abstaining. And motion to approve minutes of October 9th.
So moved.
Seconded. And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Public comment on items not on the agenda. Are either of you here for something that isn't on the agenda? No? Okay, good. So I don't think, we don't have any other public, so presumably no other public comment. So we'll move on to select board items. Equity and inclusion appointments.
We have a couple of people that couldn't be here for this, and being one, and Nancy Browse being the other. I know Jamie Comtois is planning on being here, and Stefan Gillum is here right now, and Mark, remind me of his last name. Thurman is here. Yeah, okay. So, and this is just to do the brief interviews if select board wants to interview them. We do have their letters. We did
I have
receive their
them, yeah.
letters. Let me see if I have them in here.
On my desk because I've been,
All right, I might have them in mine. Would you like to just introduce yourself, Stefan, and
Oh, he's coming. Hello. Hi. So my name's Stefan Gillum. Is this going to be like a sort of, like what kind of introduction are you looking for? Just a general one?
Just, who you are, where you live, why you
Okay.
might be interested.
Yeah, so my name's Stefan Gillum. I currently live over in Brattleboro at the moment. I wear a few different hats. One of them as president of the Windham County NAACP. So this county actually is in my jurisdiction underneath the NAACP. And so I handle a lot of stuff around here when it comes to civil rights. We do a lot of work with policy, things that happen in towns. Done a little bit here in Putney, but not that heavily. We did write a letter of support for the creation of the diversity committee. I don't know if you have a formal name for it yet. I also work in the mental health field. I'm pursuing my doctorate degree at the moment in marriage and family therapy. It's a type of clinical therapy. I don't know what else you would like to know, but there's plenty more. I work in higher education as well. Yeah, there's a lot. And so, why I want to be here, did you ask that question as well? Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed just structurally is that while the NAACP, while we're doing a lot of work on the statewide level, we've had challenges getting into the towns in our jurisdictions that fall outside of like the big populous place, like Brattleboro, for example. Rutland, they're in like the Rutland proper area, but like some of the smaller places, Putney, I feel like, is that kind of gray area where it's like just populated enough to where like stuff is going on and people are here, and like there are boards like this that are popping up, but so people kind of pass it over. It's like, oh, they're doing something, and they go to like really small places, but not big enough to where like anyone's really came in. People of color have come in structurally and tried to like speak for voices that actually do live here, that might be more marginalized. And so when I heard that there was a possibility that this committee was going to be created, I was very excited. I also work with the Democratic Party, and they're also doing a lot of initiatives. Of course, that's separate from the NAACP because we're nonpartisan, but I am a state delegate for the Democratic Party, and so we do stuff. We will be doing stuff. And I think that's all I got on the spot, but if you have any more direct questions, then let me know, and I'm happy to answer them. And and one last thing, we do handle direct cases. So we have people that come
You being NAACP. Yeah.
our branch, this branch,
Yeah.
each branch has its own jurisdiction. We act independently.
Yeah.
And so we do handle individual cases of people who come to us and say something has happened with whatever entity, and then we could go in and represent them. We might write something on their behalf. It just depends on the context of the nature of the incident. So, and I used to work at Landmark, so I know a little bit about Putney. I worked there for quite a while, so 2 years? Yeah, 2 years.
Do you wear a lot of hats? Do you feel like you'll be able to separate those hats being on this committee?
I think so. I think that part of committee work is realizing that like there is, have you all heard of Brattleboro's ecological theory? Anyway,
Maybe.
so like it talks about like ecosystems and like how each ecosystem has its roles and its niches and like pretty much how people fit and where they fit. I think thinking of it like that in a structural sense makes it easier, because if I'm sitting on this committee, then I have my role here within the context that it plays in this little ecosystem. And when I'm somewhere else, I have another ecosystem that I'm part of with a whole different set of rules and norms and niches. So I don't foresee this will be too difficult for me. It's not my first go around in that manner. So
Thank you.
thank you.
And I'm just curious, I don't, unrelated to our discussion about this, basically, how, the NAACP, it's an office in Brattleboro?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting. So it was not here for over 100 years. Somehow the NAACP went everywhere else, just didn't hit Vermont. So it was founded in 1908. So over 100 years ago now, 110, 111 years ago, the first branch to ever touch Vermont soil was actually in northern Vermont around the Winooski area, Champlain, I think. In 2015, and then Tabitha Pole Moore up in Rutland and myself chartered right back to back. And we govern the branches with our own executive committees of other professionals in the area who also have dedication to civil rights. Nader Hashim, for example, is my second vice president. He and also our legal redress chair. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark?
How you doing? My name is, nice to see you all again.
Good to see you.
My name is Mark Thurman. I am the coordinator of diversity and inclusion at Landmark College. I also was a student at Landmark, but I did a lot of diversity work on campus and co-creating the Writer Center for African American students and students that are of color. And actually, Stefan was the coordinator of the Rise Center when I was a student, so I learned a lot just working with students and bringing people together. Now that I've graduated, I am now not only the coordinator of the Rise Center, I'm also coordinating the Women's Center and the Stonewall Center. So we're doing a lot of work on campus, just bringing people together, educating people on different topics and different issues that's happening in the world, and also having students be able to speak their minds, which is an amazing thing to see. So when I heard about the diversity committee board, I was like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. I always tell other students that if you want to do something, do it. If you believe in something, then chase it. And if you do those things, then you can conquer all of that. So when I heard about this, I was like, all right, this is another goal. This is something else I can be a part of. This is change. So I want to be a part of that. So when I heard about this, I talked to Stefan and was just like, wow, this seems like something that I can be a part of and definitely help bring people together and help people understand things that are going on. So that's me.
Thank you. Maria.
Just a comment, I just happened to be here, and I'm just remembering actually, Stefan, where I met you, which is that Stefan with the NAACP, when I was at Next Stage, called and asked if they could hold a meeting of the NAACP there. And it was a wonderful event, and I have felt subsequent to that some regret that there hasn't been more continuity since then, so this seems like a wonderful opportunity for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we had one. We had one there. It was really nice.
Thank you. So we also have other letters and
And we have, just so you guys know, a couple other people have come in to express interest, and we haven't, it's all sort of very informal as far as as far as an interview is concerned. I mean, honestly, on other ones, I've sort of said, hey, do you have any questions or comments? And people are sort of free to elaborate as they choose. But I don't know whether are you thinking you're presenting a slate tonight, or?
I'm thinking of presenting a slate tonight. Unfortunately, Ann Beekman, they have an emergency school board meeting, so she might be able to make it, but it's likely she won't. Nancy Browse got called out of town. Christopher Arian, was he planning on coming?
I hadn't heard from him.
Okay, so he did send us a letter. And Jamie could not be here at 5:30 on the mark, but is doing her best to get here. And after that, we've heard from everybody. So I'm comfortable appointing this as a whole slate since we have great letters of interest, but I also am willing to hold off another 2 weeks if you want to hear from everyone.
I think, if we have letters from, I think for me, I'm not 100% sure because the nature of this committee is so different from committees that we've had in the past. And I'm happy to, I've seen most of the letters, if not, I don't think all of them. But typically a letter of interest is most of what we ask of somebody who's interested in being on a committee. I guess I feel a little bit, Jamie and I had a conversation the other day. I feel a little bit like I would be, for me personally, putting my confidence in you to manage this committee appropriately. I think that, clearly we have a lot of good and qualified applicants or people who are interested in being on this committee. I think that the nature of this committee is such that whoever is chairing it and or supervising it is going to have to be really cautious and be very thoughtful about what the mandate of the committee is and what the role is in town. I think that my biggest question about sort of how this committee is going to not necessarily function, but what its role is going to be, is that a committee of this nature does not clearly fit into any of our statutory select board duties. So what does it fit into, and how does it work? Sort of what's the goal, and how does that interface with the select board and the town and the duties of the select board and the town? And I think that for me, that would be a question that I would ask if I were asking the questions, I would ask the committee to answer that question first. Because I don't, very basically, we're running a business here, as you know. We are not typically particularly politically active, and in my opinion, shouldn't necessarily be particularly politically active. So sort of, again, where the committee, how this group decides to manage themselves and interact with the town and what that role would be, I think falls largely on you, honestly, because you're the one who's been organizing it. And I think we need to be very cautious to not have a committee that is going beyond sort of the bounds of what a select board should be doing in the context of being the sort of supervisory body of a municipality. And so what that looks like, I don't know. That doesn't have anything directly to do with the people who would be on that committee, but I think that in the decision making of appointing people to that committee is consideration of what sort of the goals are. I mean, I worry a little bit that there's a potential for significant sort of agenda of political activism, which is great in one way, but again, we are not charged as select board members with being political activists. So how that sort of, what that relationship is not 100% clear to me. And I'm just expressing my opinion about it.
I feel a lot of the same things. Questions I would like to ask you and anybody else who wants to be on the board. I don't know how to ask because I don't even know what the mission of this committee is, and I don't know what the limitations of it are. Obviously, you know way more about this than I do, and are passionate about it and about activism and all that. But how does that work well under the, for lack of a better word, jurisdiction of a select board that's really limited? So your role is really just advising. So it may be that whatever your passion is doesn't get a chance to express itself through us because of our limitations and how you serve us, just advisory. And I can't ask you questions about that because the committee hasn't even been formed yet and we don't even really know what we're going to charge it with. Okay. So it's kind of, we're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse here. That's how it feels to me.
And so we actually have a purpose. The purpose is the Equity and Inclusion Committee is to identify and advise the select board on addressing inequities and encouraging inclusive practices in town services, programs, human resource practices, and decision-making processes. The goal is to ensure that all residents, town employees, and visitors receive equal treatment and opportunity regardless of, but not limited to, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, income, wealth, veteran status, sexual orientation, age, marital status, familial status, disability, gender identity, and gender expression. I don't see anything political in there. So I do understand your concerns. And I will just reiterate that this committee is responsible to answer to us. So they can't do anything on their own. No, and I'm willing to take the responsibility that you're asking of me.
That's what, I mean,
That's really what I mean.
What limitations? You talked about limitations. What limitations?
We don't really have any authority to have any jurisdiction over anything than running the business of the town.
Okay.
And it seems like this could possibly include a much bigger scope of things than running the business of the town.
Okay.
and I think that the mission, as you just clearly stated, is very clearly related to how it interacts, or how that, sort of what that relationship would be. I don't know. I mean, it's a new realm for us. So what it ends up looking like over time, I don't know. And I guess I feel like I'm excited that there are people who are interested and willing and able to be on a committee doing this, I'm still not sure, you know, when you look at this and how it fits into what we do in our role on the select board, our scope is somewhat limited. So, what the goal of the committee will be, I guess, is what will come out over time.
I agree.
Uh,
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Josh. Hi, Dave.
Jamie.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, person I'm still learning your name.
Alyssa.
Alyssa. Hi, Alyssa.
So we were just doing very brief interviews and
Okay, great.
um,
Sorry, late transition with one parent to the next parent wasn't as smooth this evening.
can you speak to why you want to serve on this committee real quickly?
Yes, happily. Is there any criteria I should include in the response? Is there anything specific?
No, so far we've been very loose with what we're asking, you know, sort of
Okay.
whether you have questions, comments, you and I have spoken, and
Yeah.
I think you've obviously spoken with Laura,
Yeah.
and sort of why you're interested.
So I'm Jamie Comtois and I live in Putney, and I have, I think for about 6 years now, as the result of giving birth to a little boy at the same time that an African American friend of mine gave birth, that I transitioned my consciousness from saying that issues of race and racism that were around us were concepts that I cared about and that I was engaged with on some level, but not actively. I really transitioned into these two boys that I was helped raising side by side. I started recognizing that their experience was going to be different, that I started listening and watching and to my friend, and I started recognizing that my experience and my future for my white son seemed that my friend was articulating her experience in a very different way, and what raising her son and what was possible in his future looked like. And it transformed me from somebody who thought about many of the issues that are integrated into our communities and our families and our society into something that was very visceral and real and raw in my daily life. And so I started studying, because as I was doing that work, I was sticking my foot in my mouth, and then sticking my foot in my mouth, and then sticking my foot in my mouth, and thinking, as many people who intend to do the right thing, that I was also harming and being, I didn't understand how what I thought was helping wasn't necessarily helping. So I've spent about 5 years actively doing anti-racism work and educating myself. And I saw something recently that said, all systems, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was like all systems in the United States actually have an intent, and they actually have an outcome. And that unless you actively work on bias, that you are you're benefiting from systems of inequality that have been built off of hundreds and hundreds of years of a legal system that has really embedded bias and oppression and extraction. And so I thought, it's not enough to say that I'm, trying to help. It's that I have to learn how. And so one of the things that got me really excited was over the years I've met this woman named Laura Chapman, and I was like, who are you? And so one of the things I've loved finding is people in our communities who want to do this work together and collaboratively, and who have looked for ways to do the work together. And so in a lot of community groups, we've worked collaboratively. And then one of the new movements I was starting to see is how do we do anti-bias and anti-oppression work within organizations. And I happen to be married to a woman who is doing this within the food co-op movement. And so she's working with national leaders and regional leaders to really bring down to the interactions at the store, to how groups of people are actually giving loans disproportionately to only white communities, and that even though there's food deserts in many communities of color, loans aren't being given to any of these communities. And so she's starting to look, as somebody who's a part of finance organizations, about how inequity and some of these systems that we've built over hundreds of years in the United States are impacting today's businesses and practices. And so she's working with these amazing trainers all over the country to work with businesses to start to look at that work. And so I've learned a ton from her, from an organizational perspective and a business perspective, on how do you bring this work down to the nitty-gritty. And now I see movements in Vermont and elsewhere in the United States to do this work at a municipal level. And so I'm just really excited both to learn. I just served on the school board, and so I'm starting to be a Robert's Rules nerd, and even though I was kind of a Robert's Rules nerd a little bit before that, because the co-op movement does the same thing. And I've served on boards, I've done a number of creation of groups. I think one of the critical things to help groups like this succeed is creating good process, transparent process, that we would figure out what our goals are, that we would create some ways and norms of communicating with each other that felt good and respectful to everybody in the group. Those kinds of things, I think, make and break the work of communities, towns, organizations, businesses. And so those are things that I keep trying to get better and better at, and I would be really excited to apply myself to this. And I love Putney, and I just see the, all these amazing people who are just busting to do amazing things in our region, and I'm feeling like this is just one of those moments. I was talking to a statewide leader today, and they were like, I'm just seeing so much movement, and people are being really creative, and things are transforming, and it's happening, and it's happening in a new and a different way. And I was just like, I'm glad to hear that. Because they were looking at it from the 30,000 foot view. And I was like, I kind of sometimes feel like I'm like nose to the grindstone. So anyway, I don't know if that answered the question specifically enough, but that's kind of my flow. And that being said, this group has a pretty wide mandate. I only spoke to a small component of it. And I fell in love with a woman when I was 30. I'm 43 now. And I had imaginings, because of growing up in a very conservative family and a conservative community, and I imagined how things were going to go for me. And it's been a very interesting road. Things weren't nearly as bad as I imagined they were going to be, but in places that mattered, I didn't know how hard things were going to be. I have had to adopt my children so that my family's protected and my kids aren't taken away from me when I cross state borders, when I go to visit family in other states. And that's weird, to adopt one's children. And so I've had to learn that geographical boundaries and state government and federal government and even local government has a profound impact on my life, and that the way that my rights intersect with systems is profound. And so I've actually had to do some transformational work on the fact that when I went through the adoption process of my children, I had to fill out forms that were created by the state of Vermont that were psychologically damaging, to be quite honest. The way that I was asked questions, the things that the way I was asked to report information, and the way I was asked to justify my relationship with my own children I was like, what? I was like, how do I have to answer that? I was like, are heterosexual couples and straight, I'm like, who asked these questions? These are really intimate questions. I was like, so I've also been on a personal level on a receiving end of systems that have not been updated maybe in 10 or 20 years. So I really feel like we have these little opportunities and glimpses to update our way of interacting, and we're fully capable of it. And sometimes somebody just has to say, this isn't working, and I've got a Word PDF, a PDF on my desktop that I recreated the form in a way that I'm not gonna have to go to a counselor for the next 10 years to process what I just filled out. So anyway, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
I don't.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the slate of 9 candidates for the Equity and Inclusion Committee. And do we know all their names? Thank you. Nancy Browse, John Johnson, Ann Beekman, Christopher Irian, Jamie Comtois, Stephen Gillum, Mark Thurman, Angela Burkfield, and Lisa Munoz. Thank you.
I will say that I don't know most of them. I haven't read the letters yet. And I'm pretty much relying on you to make this choice.
Have letters been
I haven't gotten
available to you?
Letters were in your packet
Some.
2 weeks ago.
Some, yeah,
I
not
did.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that we had.
Yeah.
Would
at
you
the
like
time.
to take a quick moment to read these
Sure, I'd
letters?
love to. That'd be
Okay.
great. So,
Here's-
thank you.
There was a resume too from Lisa.
Yeah,
Now,
I
Nancy,
think I know.
Let me go-
the
let
equity
me grab
inclusion
my
for
packet.
the school.
I have it all together.
No,
No,
it's Lisa Munoz.
Lisa, okay.
Nancy Browse owns everyone's
Yep.
books, and
They're all
yeah, we're used to it.
I think I'm at a disadvantage here just because my world is so small and I don't know it.
Oh, yes.
So it's hard for me to feel super comfortable.
Did everybody sign in on that?
Jamie has not.
She knows.
Jamie, here you are.
Hey, Laura, can I see that list of names?
Oh, yeah? Some of the students walk over there, they love it. They love it. It's about time.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I think it's a really, really good thing. I see kids walking down here even after dark, so it's convenient for them.
So awesome. Changes, one thing, I've seen this.
Okay.
Getting an exercise.
paper. More than that. What can I say?
No, I mean, you know, you put your confidence in, you know, it's clear that everybody is well-intended.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no-
Absolutely.
So I think we see how it works out.
Yeah.
So, second to the you seconded
I'll
it.
second it, yeah.
Any further discussion? So this, it's been moved and seconded to approve the slate of, so you're not technically
I'm just gonna be a
appointed, but you're the
representative.
representative
Yep.
from the board. Nancy Browse, John Johnson, Ann Beekman, Christopher Arian, Jamie Comtois, excuse me, Stephen Gillum, Mark Thurman, Angela Burtfield, and Lisa Munoz. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I hope it goes well.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm sure it will. I have confidence in
Yeah, no, and
this
I
group
just,
of people.
yeah, no, I think, again, it's obviously a very well-intended group. I think that sort of that question that I feel like I keep asking of what the relationship between this committee and town, and I know we have it on a piece of paper and I understand that, but the reality of what this group may be doing and how they interface with town employees, et cetera, will be interesting to find out and see what the mission evolves to.
Well,
So-
I think we have the best group to do that work at this point. So, thank you.
I wanted to just say something that's a good time.
Sure.
I was thinking about some of the books I've been reading that have been really profound in my learning process, and I wondered if maybe one of the things we could do as a body was figure out something that we could look at collaboratively. And I know there's a lot of research that Laura's done looking at, what's the town manager's name in Brattleboro? Peter Elwell. So Peter Elwell has done a ton of work and research, and so there's so many cool things we could read collectively, because I think one of the opportunities is that we will need to learn together so that we have a common language. And then, so I'm just putting that out there, that I'm already in my mind saying, what are some ways that we could do that together? And so hopefully employees and select board and members of the committee, as resources kind of pop up and people are like, ooh, did you see this? Ooh, did you see this? We could have a way of sharing stuff that we're seeing, because there's, I had another chance to talk to Susanna Davis at the executive director of racial equity in the state of Vermont today, and she was just telling me some of the cool things that are going on in Vermont right now, and I'm like, we have so many counterparts now, so I'm just like, we will have opportunities for being like, I heard this, did you hear this? So I think that could be cool.
Well, first I feel like this committee needs to get training in how to be a committee, a municipal committee, because there are rules that we have to work within. But one of the things that I'm really excited for is taking a deep dive into what other communities are doing that have similar committees and groups within them. So,
Yeah.
and
I'm excited to look at a lot of the research that you spent the last year doing.
Well, I hope that everybody's willing to do that. No. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for participating.
Are we excused?
Yes,
Oh, it's not like that.
No, you can stay now.
you're welcome to stay for as much or as little as you choose.
Yes, thank you for taking the time.
If you stay without needing to, I'm gonna wonder. Okay?
Karen, thank you
All right. So,
I'll send you an email.
I'm getting ready.
All right. Me too.
dog incident, Westminster Road.
So in your packet, there was a dog incident last week, and I just want you to be aware of it. Not that I expect any action from the board, because this is a civil matter, but 2 dogs chased and killed some turkeys and ducks up on Westminster Road. In your packet are the details. The deputy sheriff is aware of it. We do know who the person that had the dogs,
Sorry, say it again.
who has the dogs, whether they belong to him, we haven't confirmed that yet.
Right.
He may have been dog sitting.
Got it.
Okay, I put a call into him, I have no return phone call from him. Our ACO, Josh Emond, is aware of the situation as well. State statute 3545, right to kill domestic pets or wolf hybrids. If anyone has livestock and a dog or wolf hybrid is chasing and killing their animals, they have the right to shoot and kill the dog. So people need to be educated about this statute, because you may find that some people will take action.
Yeah, I hope the owner of the dog is, offering to make compensation for losses. But
Who was
that's
the
not
owner?
up to us.
Who was the owner of the dogs?
I don't have confirmation, but the person who supposedly was dog sitting is Alex James. He's down on, behind the mill here.
So where did it, the dogs had come from here and gone up there?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not the first time that the property owner had issues with dogs.
This
Yeah.
property owner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. These turkeys and ducks were also in an enclosed, like, house. Like,
When the
you know,
attack happened,
yeah.
in the house,
Yeah.
the dogs broke
Yeah,
into
in
the house.
their actual coop.
Coop.
Yeah. And there's electric fence around them too, so the dogs push the fence over. The property owner was out there trying to salvage her turkeys, and one of the dogs came around the corner and was aggressive to her. Didn't attack her, but if it had been a dog bite to a human right away, we would take action.
Right.
But because it's a domestic animal, and it's not okay, I'm not, saying that this is okay, but I want the board to be aware there is another dog incident, and
This is really interesting.
we're trying to find out who actually owns the two dogs and whether or not they're registered in town of Putney.
911 advised her to try and personally restrain the dogs. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the state police will not respond to domestic animal calls.
And so because it was animal to animal,
Correct.
it isn't our responsibility or Josh's, but what do we typically do in a situation like that?
Well, we're still trying to confirm who the owner of the dogs
I get
are. So it's, even though it happened almost a week ago,
Yeah.
one would think we could get this information quickly, but it doesn't happen that way. So dog on dog, they could be considered aggressive, but, a complaint would have to be filed to the select board. And then, how do you define aggressive?
Right.
If it's a dog that bit a child, attacked a child, then that's a totally different situation.
Right.
And a dog biting somebody, an owner, that's something we wouldn't intervene with either.
Right.
So there's certain situations, but this particular incident definitely is a civil matter. Restitution to the property owner for the loss of their livestock,
Right.
because those were Thanksgiving turkeys. And it's about $2,000 worth of damage,
Got it.
but
Yep, and even though that's not our responsibility or jurisdiction.
But if those two
My opinion
dogs,
is the right thing to do.
right,
But-
so if those two dogs do it a second time, if they don't get shot first.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately, that's, that's not our jurisdiction,
Right.
that's not up to us. Although, so, yeah.
It's unfortunate.
I mean, it's,
It is,
certainly Mark and Katie
yeah.
would have been well within their rights to dispatch these dogs. And I know nobody wants to do that. I don't know these dogs personally, but of course, once a dog gets a taste of something like this, that can be encouraging, and that's not a good sign.
They appear to be Siberian Huskies from the photo that was on Facebook. And, that breed does, it's in them to do that.
Hi.
All right,
So I'm just bringing
you've
this-
already been appointed, so I don't know whether you want to say.
I go home and cook.
Yeah. We didn't expect you, Ann.
I told Laura I would try if
Yeah,
the
yeah.
session ended,
Yeah.
and it did mercifully, because someone else had another meeting afterwards.
All right, well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess one question I have on the dog thing is that when it happened before, what happened? What was the outcome of that? When the dog, not.
Well, the first time,
Right.
I don't know, because I wasn't here.
I got it.
It's-
Me either. I was wondering if anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that coming to our attention, but I may just not be remembering it. I don't think it came up as a town issue with that. I mean, I remember dog issues,
Right.
but not with those guys, so I don't.
I
I'm
bring
not-
This
this,
is new to
yeah,
me.
I bring this to the board too because I did get a few phone calls from residents and, they're reluctant to like walk their dogs, because if we have these type of dogs just roaming, they don't feel safe.
Let's hope that this goes out and whoever is caring for the dogs or owning the dogs hears that and takes
Yeah.
it seriously and then
Yeah,
does a more responsible job keeping the
Yeah,
dogs.
no,
And
and
that's the idea.
Right.
but we're also, I mean, there is a leash law in town. I mean, those dogs are not allowed to be out wandering,
Right.
so
and in that area, I think that leash law is,
still intact, I
Yes,
believe so,
yes,
because it's
yes.
village.
yes.
Yeah.
I
Yep,
don't remember what their designation is, but it's
Yeah.
it's like village outskirts or
It
something.
goes all the way
Residential,
past
yeah.
the school,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe.
down,
Yeah.
Sam,
Goes up to
down,
Brian's
yes,
house, doesn't it?
yep.
Somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So if we can find out who the dogs were, we can issue a ticket, can't we? Through the ACO?
I can issue, some
And or
ticket
I think you
citations.
can, Candy, or not.
Well, no, because you're designated, certain
Right.
people are designated.
Yeah.
The thing with writing a ticket is if they don't pay it, then whoever wrote it goes to court, okay? Otherwise, it just gets thrown out. So if you write a ticket, you're gonna write it for more than $50, because you're gonna make it.
Otherwise, it's not worth it.
Right. So, I mean, is it worth our time to write a ticket and they don't pay it because financially they can't?
Well,
Or they
we
don't.
don't know that.
Right.
Yeah,
Or they don't want to, because they don't feel they're at fault,
But if we never write tickets,
yeah, I would tend to.
I feel like that's the least we can do for,
Well, there's
This
a workshop
situation.
coming up December 4th in Montpelier about writing civil citations, so I think you and I should go. Because I need another workshop in my life.
what is that?
December 4th. I will share the information with you.
Please do, all right.
Because I'm not clear on the process when you write a ticket.
Well, I think that, the issue we've always had with it, as you're pointing out, is enforcement. I mean, where do you go with it?
Right.
But I think Laura's point is valid, and maybe you'll learn more about it if this, if we don't write any tickets, then what's the point of being able to? And maybe, I mean, that's an ongoing discussion. I
Right.
agree with you
Right.
that when it
There's-
comes down to, although an infraction of this scale seems to me it could warrant a fairly sizable ticket. I
Well,
mean,
there's
these
two
dogs
dogs
were
involved,
unleashed,
so you
exactly,
could
there's two
do-
dogs, they were
right.
unleashed,
Mhm.
they attacked domestic,
Right.
but I don't know, I mean, I don't think we have a clear enough, this doesn't happen enough in
Right.
Putney for us to know what that ticket should be for how much, what,
Right.
so.
Seems to me that what we hope for is that the owners or the people caring for the dog will act
Take
responsibly.
responsibility.
And
Yes.
the real need for, or the desire of a ticket or any kind of citation is to get them to act responsibly towards
Right.
the dogs and
Right.
towards the loss of the
Absolutely
property owner.
correct.
So maybe we don't need that. Let's
Right.
hope we don't
Right.
need that.
No.
But if no response is made and people aren't reassured that the dogs are restrained and it's
Mhm.
safe so people can walk and
Mhm.
something isn't done on the part of the owners or the caretakers for the dogs,
Right.
then maybe something does have to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, an invitation for them to step up.
I also think we should be careful about applying rules as we feel like it. Like, I think that if we,
Have a rule.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
no,
should
I
apply
agree.
it, so.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
So that's
That's
all I
in
had.
the
And,
policy, yes.
and if any legislators are watching, although this doesn't come up often,
Mhm.
it comes up often enough. And
It's a problem.
yes, we really could use some help on a state
Yeah.
level
No,
to
I
address
agree.
these issues.
No, and I think that sort of what I was saying about it not happening enough, and, I mean, how much is a ticket for, what do we intend to do for enforcement? I mean,
Right.
if we write a $500 ticket,
Right.
then that's well worth enforcing in a situation like this, and I totally agree with you that we can't arbitrarily decide rules, but what's that break point of us for where we write a ticket and for how much and why? And once we decide that, which I think our animal advisory board
I was
had
gonna
worked on that, and I don't,
segue into
exactly,
that. So it's on our agenda, but
yeah,
there's a draft ordinance for animal control.
yeah,
The Animal Advisory Board worked on it for quite a while. It went to the attorney's office for review. It's on my desk to contact Abby and meet with the advisory committee. Let them review the comments, and then we will probably start doing public hearings. Because I think this is
about animals.
about the draft
Oh, yeah, okay,
ordinance.
yeah.
Because I think you're gonna get a lot of people that are gonna have something to say about it once they review it. So that is coming up, and we'd like to get that.
Yeah, and that's still, at least what I've seen so far, that doesn't address sort of fines and volume. I mean, it defines.
The
it
draft
defines-
does.
Does it addresses when we can fine or not fine, but it doesn't
And how
say.
much.
Oh, it does?
It does
Okay,
state
I
how
haven't
much,
seen- I
yes.
haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
you
Okay.
have not seen it, and
Okay,
once I meet with them,
yeah,
then I'll get you the draft.
okay,
And then I'll probably have them here as well in a meeting.
yeah. No, it's frustrating though. I mean, I think that, to Laura's point that we should apply the rule if we have it. These things do come up often enough. And every time we sort of sit here going, well, I don't know what to do, and
But your enforcement is.
enforcement
you're right
is
on-
totally an issue.
Yes,
No, I get it,
yes,
and
yes.
also, but I also would agree with Laura as far as statutorily from a legislative level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so not clear to me whether in a situation like this, we should write a ticket, we should be, and when law enforcement won't have anything
Right.
to do
So
with any
that's
of it,
right,
sort of what's the
right.
point? And
Yeah.
where does that fall on us as a select board to say, I mean, we want to take this responsibility seriously, but our hands are kind of tied. I mean, what are we supposed to do? We write a
It's-
ticket and then it
yeah.
doesn't go anywhere, we don't have any ability to enforce it.
Yeah.
Your time, if it's gonna go to court and we're not gonna recoup, I don't know,
We're not
there's
empowered
not
to
good
do
answers.
much.
No, exactly, and I'm not sure we should be, but
Right.
somebody should be.
Yes.
Because things like this, again, they happen and
Right.
they shouldn't, and there should be a way of enforcing it. Again, the landowners could have enforced this, and any number of different reasons they would have chosen to or not to, and I'm not recommending they should have, but that is the recourse that's readily available to them. Sort of what's our role in that? Nothing, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. But this is significant,
It is.
And dogs, it seems more often than not, we have these sort of, whether they're licensed or not, they're sort of semi-transient dogs of we're not sure who owns them and why they're not here, and
Right.
are here, and
Yeah.
that's a problem for us. And then,
It is.
but that compounds that whole issue of enforcement too. I mean, it's like if we can't even figure out who the dog belongs to,
Yeah.
we don't even know yet who we would write a ticket to. And that
Right.
was the case in the last one. It was, oh, well, we're keeping it, but we don't live here. And,
Right, right.
there were a whole sort of bunch of circumstances where it was like,
Yeah.
well, what do we do? So, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
The state should be taking this on in a bigger way. But
Well, Michael Murphy is aware of this incident as well, because he did get an email, so, not from our office, but, so people they know about
paying
it.
attention to it.
And it's on Facebook and,
Well, I'm sorry for Mark and
So,
Katie. This is,
yeah.
that's really a bummer.
so I'll keep you posted if anything develops that,
Yeah, I mean, for me, reading this, I mean, it's a bummer on the level that they lost the turkeys and ducks, I mean, that's a significant financial burden but just, clearly feeling threatened by somebody else's dogs on your property. That's
Right.
a pretty
Yeah.
unpleasant scenario.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trauma
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
and we have documentation, so we kind of have to, I'm acknowledging that this happened.
Yeah, I guess the one other question we would want to answer is there, I mean, they're Siberian Huskies, I'm like, is there any wolf hybrid aspect to it? And if so, does that play a different role in the likelihood of them being second-time offenders? I don't know.
I'm just
I
hoping
know
they
that's
have
come up in
rabies
other
shots,
places.
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
That
They
they're
said they had
back,
collars but didn't see tags, is that what I read?
yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that, yeah.
I'm hoping they're vaccinated.
Has Josh actually seen the dog? Has anyone besides the people in the incident seen the dogs? Has anybody actually seen if they're restrained?
No, it's
mean,
just like,
Like, seems like
Yeah,
they just
it's hard.
wandering around up there. I was dealing with it.
All
I'm
right.
saying, putting that out there to hopefully the person that's responsible for these dogs will go.
Thanks,
get them.
Maria. See ya.
Were you here for a?
No, I'm just here.
Oh,
Just here.
thank you
I
for.
appreciate what you do.
Yes, thank
Really
you.
important. Thanks.
See ya.
all right.
Okay, so lease agreement for Putney Historical Society. Now, it's clear that council had
Yes.
some suggestions about this, and
Yes.
I'm thinking we should
Yeah.
probably pay attention to those suggestions.
Do you want my copy, because it's in blue?
These are additions that he recommended, is that right?
Those are
Or
changes.
omissions
Yep,
that he
yep.
recommended?
He's
Okay.
made changes.
And this has not yet gone back to the Historical Society
It has
after
not.
those changes
It
were made?
has not. I
Right.
brought it to your attention first.
Yeah,
So I drafted the lease, they went through it, and, recommendation is,
not to have it be a long-term, it seemed to me the one that was most important was for it not to be a super long-term lease.
correct. He mentioned having a 2-year lease.
Yeah,
Now, the Historical Society's looking for a 99-year lease.
right.
So I'm not sure how they're gonna respond to the draft.
What is his, I mean, I can see obvious concerns with being locked into a 99-year lease. Law can change in 99 years.
Well, it can, we may not own the building,
Yeah.
in 10 years.
That seemed to be, to me,
Yes.
that seemed to be his biggest concern,
Right.
is that it raises issues, occupancy versus ownership over time raises issues of, I think for all practical purposes, sort of squatters' rights and what that looks
Right.
like.
Right,
I mean, obviously, if we're leasing it to them, it's not squatters' rights, but if they have a 99-year lease and we decide to sell the building, we've saddled somebody with a problem.
right, yep.
I mean, I definitely understand their sentiment of wanting a 99-year lease, but I think I can certainly say from my perspective that I think if we sign a 2-year lease, that it would be under the assumption that that's going to get renewed indefinitely for as long as,
Correct.
you know, the one question I would have on the other side of that is, does that hamper their ability to get grant money? And I don't know.
It may, I'm not sure, but that's probably gonna be a thought.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come up in discussion.
Yeah.
So maybe we look at a 5-year.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, or maybe
Right.
even a 12 or 15, you know, whatever, sort of whatever enhances their ability to garner grant money and doesn't saddle us with a
Right.
seemingly longer. But I would also assume that the lease can be written in a way such that, you know, maybe they have first options to, you know, refusal,
Right.
but otherwise, if the building sells, the lease is terminated. I mean, I don't know how that works. That's up to,
Yeah.
that
So-
would be up to.
That's what we have in front of us, and if you'd like, I can send it to Putney Historical Society. I'm sure they're gonna have to have a meeting, discuss it.
Yeah.
This is no different than what you sent in our packet.
No,
Okay.
nope, bless you.
Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know whether we want to sort of how we want to present it to them. Whether we want to
You wanna
present
invite
it
them?
marked up or whether we just send them a copy of a different lease. I mean, we might, just for the ease, you know, I'm in the middle of this process in a different situation.
Yeah,
And it's really hard when you have
Yes.
one in front of you and the other one in front of you to say, well, what are the changes? So the
Right.
marked up copy is very helpful, but I don't think we want to necessarily sort of invite,
I
you know,
agree with you.
marking up again and response and back. I think essentially we want to come up with a lease that we propose and present it. Maybe we want to give them a marked up copy to just, so we can say, this is how we got from A to B, but B is what we're hoping for, and then see sort of what their response is.
Did they receive a copy of A?
No,
So they don't have an original copy
no,
before it was marked up?
They haven't seen anything?
no.
Oh, I thought they had seen a possible
No,
draft. Okay.
No,
So, yes, okay, so
take the markup off. I'll just-
create the finished,
Yes.
our proposed
Yes.
finished document and
Yep.
present it to them
Right,
and see what the response is. And I think
that's
we
what I
could,
would do.
and I think we could, you know, again, we don't want to invite it to be changed and changed and changed again, but I think we could comfortably say, sort of, hey, this is the draft that we came up with.
Right,
Does this meet
Yep.
your interests and requirements? And then go from there. Does
Okay.
that sound
Perfect.
logical?
Just,
All right.
and
I
it
will
would
do
be
that.
actually easier for them probably.
All right.
let me take that back.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, come on, do you want that?
So no markups.
Taylor Road town-owned parcel.
Okay, so in your packet, you have the Taylor Road, we discussed this before.
Yeah. So, and just remind us, this is in relationship to the possibility of doing upgrading work on Taylor Road? Or
No.
Okay, so this is
No.
unrelated.
This is unrelated.
Okay.
This is a budding landowner that is
Yeah.
interested in buying.
Yep, so 2004, Town of Putney acquired 2.3 acres
Yeah.
off of Taylor Road in a tax sale, okay? Someone has just bought an abutting parcel with a right-of-way, okay?
And our parcel is landlocked, is that right? I don't remember.
Now, there's a right-of-way.
There is a right of way.
It comes through this parcel right here, and is it Baumberg?
Carl.
Carl Baumberg. So it starts on his property, and then it runs up through, I think it's over here. And it runs up into this parcel, which just got bought, okay? So the person that just bought this one is interested in this piece, because they butt. So,
And is that person, well, it's public record, who bought it? Who bought it? Is it?
His name is Harold, oh boy, Harold.
I mean, is it somebody else, is it somebody who owns other parcels adjacent as well, or
No.
not? Okay.
No, so RP Management owned this one that just got bought by Harold.
Okay,
And in conversation,
they let them know that,
yes, so
Right, because
he,
they had talked to us about
Yes.
it before.
yeah.
Right.
And RPM Management knew it was potentially for sale, because I had talked to them too. So he is interested in the property. And that property has been with the town since 2004. And it doesn't appear that we have any real use for it.
no.
Pretty hard.
Was it bought
surprised-
because
I'm
of tax sale?
I don't, it was sold, it was bought at
Yeah.
tax sale, it's the
Yeah.
year before. I have no recollection of how we came to own this. It's come up a number of times over the years.
There was part of the Seaward
It's a weird piece of land.
and Seaward.
Well, just Seward, yeah.
So here's the collector's deed
Okay.
right here.
So I would think we would have, not necessarily an obligation, but I think it would be appropriate for us to contact other abutting landowners. Okay.
I've already done that
Okay.
before he bought this property.
That's what because
And we've done it twice.
okay, because I remember doing something
Yes.
related to that at some
Yeah.
point, and
We have done it twice.
and nobody was interested, or it just
No.
never went anywhere,
No,
or?
the first time there was no interest because Chip was here. And then just July of last year, I wrote letters to all the abutters again. And RP Management is like, well, what are you willing to sell it for?
What's its appraised value?
17,300,
How big a lot is it?
2.3 acres.
And why is it only 17? I mean, it would be,
There's no house on it, it's raw land.
but it's still,
That's a lister's question. I can't answer that question.
yeah, we should answer, I mean, a two acre lot, I mean, I get it, sort of logically why it wouldn't be worth more than that, but any lot that's buildable, in theory, has a value, a minimum value. I don't, maybe it's great, I'm not sure what it is,
Yeah.
so,
So Harold just bought
the abutting piece.
3.3 acres and he paid 16,500 for it.
Okay.
Has a right of way, but nothing on it. So 17.3 seems reasonable. Let me see if I have the listers printed out here.
It's hard to know looking at this map, maybe,
Maybe I
all
have-
ledge, maybe, do we know? Maybe we could pass a perk, maybe
So
we could-
here's the value that was printed in 2017. So if it's changed, it hasn't changed by much, Josh.
So it has a right of way all the way from Route 5. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant by it's an odd piece of land.
Well, that's what I
It's like-
remembered, is that the right of way is,
It's an island.
yeah. No, that's why I was thinking it was landlocked, but it, or
It's-
technically with a right of way, it's not landlocked.
No, but we had that question.
For all practical
Yeah.
purposes. I guess I will, if it were up to me, I would probably ask the lister's opinion
Okay,
as to what it should be sold for, and I would probably ask the same of council, and I don't, I mean, and or whether, I guess the other question for council is, and I think Chip and or maybe you have already done this research, but I think that we, again, are not obligated to contact other abutters, but I think we have, and so we've done that.
Yeah.
Are there other legal steps we need to
Yes.
take before we
So Title 24, 1061, conveyance of real estate.
Is this in our packet? No.
This, yeah, it's
That
on the
is-
back side, we're doing
Oh,
back
it
and
is, okay.
front printing.
Oh, this is this one.
Sorry, I have to take a bio break.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Baumberg's place right there.
There's a color that has a good decision.
So here's Carl's.
Yeah.
So that right away, if you can find Taylor Road, it's supposed, I think it
Comes
comes,
off of Taylor Road,
Yeah,
off
and
of Route 5.
follows the edge of his property
Yeah,
all the way up through here.
Uh-huh.
So Harold just bought this. If he buys that,
right.
then, you know, he'll have clear access to it, you know?
Yeah.
But right now, it's difficult, but this access does go through here and it cuts across to get to this lot.
So the right of way, because those are separate, goes through the property he
Yes,
just bought too.
yes,
So
yep.
this piece could be
Right.
accessed separately from a different owner.
Yeah,
It would go right
Right.
through the land he just bought.
correct.
Okay.
So,
And the 11,300 is basically the debt to the town
back in 2006,
in 06.
there was a purchase and sale. Josh, I don't know if you remember that. And at that time, the price was $11,300, which was the tax collector's deed of $7,600, delinquent taxes, the deed prep, newspaper advertisement, and admin fees.
And the 13 years of not getting taxes since then on top of that.
Was almost $5,500.
So that brings us to 17, almost 17,
Right.
16.1.
Yeah,
And they're saying it's being appraised at 17 what?
17.3.
17.3. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I just, for legislative body, I guess I would just need to, you know, I mean, we can read this, obviously.
so
I didn't
yeah,
see
in
this
order to
before,
sell real estate, you can publish it for 30 days
but- Yeah,
in all the regular places, plus the newspaper,
Yeah.
or you can bring it up at town meeting as an article.
It seems like it'd be good to get it back paying taxes and,
Right,
and have it for someone that has another property, so it's a bigger lot, which is
Right.
great.
Yeah.
it would
And it
benefit
would-
this buyer, it would.
right,
Or so
yeah, I mean, we don't
interesting.
know his intentions, because
Right.
he may be saying, well, if I had two lots together, I could subdivide it into three, and that, I have no idea, you know, we
Right.
can only speculate about
Has he
what,
said anything?
but that's none of our business,
Right.
really.
So, he lives in Connecticut, he's
But might be
from,
nice to know.
he wants to come up and build eventually.
Yeah.
So he does live in Connecticut, and he comes up here, so.
I mean, I think if we have an opportunity to sell it at a reasonable price, I think we'd be silly not to.
I
So-
totally agree.
Especially
So
with
it's
the way
sort
it
of a-
sits, I think, because
Yeah,
if it was on a town road,
Yeah.
that might be very
Value
different.
to us,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Right,
No, and like you
agree.
said, it would put it back on the tax. So I think we need to make sure
the value.
the value,
Yeah.
cross our Ts, dot our Is, in making sure that we've adhered to statute in our process.
Okay,
And then decide whether we want to, I mean, you know, we could bring it up as an article. I mean, you know, in some ways, it would be less, depending on the posting period, it would be less expensive to bring it up as an article than it would be to advertise it. But then we're waiting till March, then
And he's showing interest now, and who knows what happens.
and we're potentially opening up a debate that is not a debate we really need to be having. So, yeah, I think we find out what the steps are we have to take, and then
and I'll come back to you next meeting.
that's what I would say.
All right,
Sound reasonable?
thank you.
No, and if we have a buyer who's interested, yeah, well, sounds good. All right. Wilson Wetlands appointment.
So you had asked me in the last meeting to get some sort of confirmation in writing for Cole
Oh,
Perdone.
yeah,
So here you are, it's not.
just a letter of interest, yes.
Yes, yeah.
just a. And as I recall, felt that Cole
Yes.
would be a good addition to the.
Yeah, they've accepted him already, but the select board should probably make a motion to
I move
appoint.
that we appoint Cole Pradom to the Conservation Committee.
The Wilson Wetlands.
Committee,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
And I second that.
It's been moved in second to appoint Cole Pridham to the Wilson Wetlands Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect.
All right.
Speaking of the wetlands, is the dam
So the dam,
damaged again?
yes, so with the heavy rain, it washed out.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
So people were saying they were only seeing one beaver. There are two beaver. They're rebuilding the dam. It's still open a little bit, but they're working on each end. And it looks like they might close it back up.
Howard stopped in right before the meeting and said
It's up.
Hmm.
All
They work
right.
fast.
Yep.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, the water dropped like a foot and then,
So it was way down.
Yeah.
It's odd, it just
and
raised.
Howard's been really good because he'll report things.
He's our dam reporter.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, and Mary too, but.
What's the punctuation in that?
But, yeah, so the beaver are rebuilding. But
Good.
that's Mother Nature, you know, heavy rain and,
Right.
look what happened.
Yeah. Well, and this is in the area where the encouragement was placed for them.
Correct.
So I wonder, I mean, it was a heavy rain, but it wasn't shockingly heavy rain.
No,
I'm just
not
wondering
extreme.
whether that's indicative of slightly meager beaver work.
Yeah, I was
on
wondering-
their part.
Wonder what's going on with these beavers, because they keep washing out.
I don't
I wouldn't
know.
hire them to build my dam.
Yeah,
Well, good.
yes,
They're back.
yes.
All right. So this falls to you then, town manager's report.
Okay, so just some updates. Fiscal year 21 draft budget review is slated in November. We'll start with the fire department, highway department, and then probably early December, the library. I'll throw the general fund in there somewhere, but we are drafting up the budget for 21. Social agency presentation. Would the select board like to hear from all the social agencies again this year?
Well, they're required to write a report. We don't typically, which are you talking? Are you talking about
Having them-
anybody who has,
An appropriation. We did it last year, so I'm not sure.
we did everybody, did we?
Mm-hmm, pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Which
Um,
agencies?
It's everything that's written up in the
town report.
in the town report. So, but not everybody can, I mean, not like the sea levels did that not have?
Some of them.
Did
yes,
they?
Yeah.
Huh.
So, yeah, you have group A, B, and C. So I did print out the social agency policy.
And this is something that we actually have to dive into because
Because of the Putney Cares.
Putney Community
Yeah.
Cares, yeah.
So I want to bring your attention to item number 7 on the back page. So new agencies which have been dropped from funding, and agencies which would like more funding than proposed by the select board, etc., retain the right under 17 VSA 2642A to petition an article for the warning for the town meeting. Very important item right there.
Can we put it on as an article without them petitioning or not?
No,
They have the right to petition. I wonder whether we can,
I
because,
don't know if you can.
because that would be a way, yeah, I don't.
The select board doesn't have the authority to put any article on?
We do as long as it's legal. I just don't, just because this is specifically saying to petition,
Right.
I'm not sure what
So
whether
item-
there's a reason we
Right.
couldn't.
Couldn't do it.
Item number 6, the last sentence.
Add agencies to the proposed list of its own volition, but that's not that's not an article.
Right.
To ask for more, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I think that in their best interest over the long term, as we discussed when we have had this conversation previously, I think coming up with some way, you know, it would be too bad if it had to be revisited every year. It would be too bad for
Right.
that.
Right.
Just because over time everybody forgets and then they say, well, wait a minute, why are we doing this again? But it's not obvious to me, from what I recall, a way that it was going to make sense to do it within the existing categories that we have.
Right.
So presumably this is sort of an out for that. But again, if it's put on as an article regularly, I mean, I hate to make, you know, if we're assuming we would like to give them the money anyway, which I think was the assumption, then to make them petition it is just
If they're,
unfortunate that they would
Right.
have to do that.
right,
But-
so if they're already getting funding, and as long as they don't change it, they're fine. They don't need to petition. They fill out a questionnaire and then they send us a report for the town report.
Right,
So that's about the extent of the criteria, as long as there's no change.
but it's a single entity now as
Yeah.
opposed to two entities.
Right.
So they're only technically eligible for half of the funding that they did. We
Correct.
sort of, we bypassed that last
You
year.
did, yes, yeah.
And made the assumption that we would figure out how to reconvene that. So I don't know whether, I mean, you know, we could, let's see, this was amended December 21st, 2016. Do you have any idea what that amendment was? I don't remember.
No,
I think
no,
it was,
no.
my recollection is it was an adjustment in the percentages because it had gotten
Yeah, I wasn't here
a
then.
little off. I don't remember.
See, this doesn't make sense if it was done December 2016, because this was, well, it was originally adopted in
99.
Yeah.
1999, or was it this one?
No, I think it was even before, adopted by, no,
Yeah.
right, it was, so it wasn't amended.
So November
Oh,
22nd,
and then it was amended almost
1999.
right, yeah.
Amended in December and then March. See, yeah, that date throws me off, because I would think the new date should be there. Even if you made an amendment, this should reflect this date here.
And just to remind everybody that this got a little bit more complicated last year because Groundworks realized that they hadn't put in when they merged. And so
That's right.
asked
Yeah.
for the same
Right.
thing, and full disclosure, I worked for Groundworks. So was not involved in any of that decision making.
And I can't remember, what did we do? I remember the conversation, I don't remember what the decision
I
was.
think it was decided because like a couple of years had passed that we were gonna keep them where they were at.
Yeah,
I don't remember specifically either. It was really a conversation I removed myself from at the time
Sounds
because of
appropriate.
my conflict.
yeah,
But it's relevant to this conversation because any other group that were to merge could come to us with the same
situation,
ask. Yeah.
right.
And then I also have to question, and it's not, I fully support giving Putney Community Cares all the money. But I question when two organizations merge, the idea is that there's some streamlining that's happening.
Right.
And so hopefully there's some cost savings in there. And I wonder, you know, when is that taken into consideration in this process?
Well, I think the assumption for them, I mean, I think you're right, that part of the idea was cost savings, but also the assumption was to provide the services of both of those organizations. So, yes, there would be some streamlining, but how does that fit into here?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's all I'm
maybe we just need to revisit the criteria by which one is a Putney-based, or by which one becomes any of these. And maybe it becomes more, it gets complicated, but maybe there's a component of the formula that is based on their budget or their, I mean, we see volumes in their reports, volumes of people, services provided, but we might well see the budget. I can't remember in their situation. You know, it would be nice if there was a clean-cut way we could use, or future select boards could use this policy to say, this is an organization that needs this much money, and this is an organization that needs this much money. I mean, of course we want to support our Putney organizations, there's no question, but, you know, how that's equitable just because they're in Putney doesn't mean they're all equal.
Right.
But that having been said, we treat everybody else in the other groups equally too, so.
And part of the reason I asked that question is because, you know, they merged, and meanwhile, the Putney Food Shelf could likely bring to us, hey, we just started an entirely new food shelf in the school system.
Yeah.
And now we're running 2 programs and serving so many more people.
That we
And so,
yeah.
you know, so I think that this could get really messy really quickly.
Is that a reality?
No, that was just something I actually just pulled out.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
just, it is a reality that they did put a food shelf into the school. And that they are.
But it's not a separate entity technically, or
It's
is it?
Food for Kids. It's a program under the Putney Food Shelf, but they are essentially, and I no longer sit on that board, so there's no conflict here. They essentially are running 2 food shelves with the volunteer base that's needed for that,
And do they get state support for, well, I guess
they
get state support
I
for
don't
both, but,
fully know what the funding situation is there anymore because I haven't been on that board for probably 6 months now. So, but I could see that coming to us, you know, that we're now serving so many more people and we've expanded in this way, and so it's just something to think about.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to revamp this a little bit.
you know, it might be worth, and I don't, I think we've done this somewhat, but it might be worth looking at how some other organizations do it, and just see whether they're, because I think realistically, it would have to be, you know, maybe we start, I mean, we've always seen, again, the numbers of people served, but maybe we start breaking it down based on that, or some formula between budget and numbers of people served. I'm not sure what the right way to do it is.
I don't know. And further disclosure, part of the reason the Putney Food Shelf came to mind is because Hannah Pick recently reached out to me and asked me about this. And I said, I'm not sure where we're at on it right now. I think Karen's looking at other town models, and we'll get back to you as soon as
On
we know.
revamping it, or whether just making sure that they would be included in
On
it?
revamping it, because that had been a conversation that was well known.
About the other.
Right,
Yes.
right.
But that wasn't Hannah's, the food shelf, right?
Hannah's the food shelf
So
director.
okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the
Um,
first year it was okay, but,
Yeah,
so,
And I don't think, the question was very vague. It was just,
Right.
you know, do you know what's happening with this?
Yeah.
And
so, and it seems to me like there, you know, even if we don't sort of get to this in a timely fashion, there's a vehicle by which they could
can
ask for twice as much
Correct.
money.
correct.
I think it's important for us to know whether we can put that on as an article, just because if they want it on as an article, I'm assuming we would all agree to do that, as opposed to asking them to petition it.
Yeah,
I'm just, it
Let me
may be too short a time frame for us to try and, but, you know, obviously this needs to be looked at.
right. We'll have to look at this statute, Josh. Maybe it states it right in there.
It probably does.
You can. So,
No, and I think Laura's right. I mean, we,
Yeah.
you know, for all practical purposes, we have the right to place any article we want on there as long as it's legal and appropriate.
Right.
But it's just, that's not stated in that statute, so I'm not sure why.
And without a budget, you're not gonna know what that number is gonna be until
Right,
the very end.
Exactly, yeah,
So,
yeah. But it is, but we could buy ourselves a year or, you know, as many years as one needed to in order to figure this out, but we obviously need to.
yeah, we need to
this again,
redo this, so. So that's a process too,
Yeah.
but we'll get through it this year, okay?
As you're entering budget season.
I know, it always happens that way.
And I did, you know, not to shift things towards you, but it would be interesting potentially to have that discussion included in equity and inclusion. Because I don't know what the implications.
Yeah.
Why haven't we
Might be.
broken down each service and its needs separately till now?
Right.
And
Right.
like, if we
Yeah.
look at funding equal for each service, but we don't
Right.
look at service provided for each service,
Yeah.
why haven't we done that?
Right.
We mostly
Maybe so.
have looked at the services provided, but not from an evaluation standpoint, not primarily from, well, it's geographic, and it's, I mean, you know, you can't be in Group A if you're not Putney based.
Right.
But it's level of social services provided, but it seems we need to get a little more sophisticated
Right.
about that,
Right.
what that means related to, you know, I mean, if you're providing services to 100 people, but it's only 10 cents worth of service to each of those people versus providing service to 10 people to the tune of, you know,
Right.
$1,000 a person or whatever.
Right.
That's a whole, you know, so maybe we have to do that.
And do we also take into consideration their budget, where their funding is coming from, like how much funding do they have? Are they fully funded and
Right.
this is a bonus?
Right.
Or
No,
are
and
they
I
way
think-
underfunded and
Or
really
are we the
need-
only
Yes.
source of funding they
Yeah.
have? Right,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
We don't see those numbers for the most part. Some we do,
Mhm.
but not all.
We could probably request most of them, because they're
Right,
probably
all
mostly,
nonprofits.
but, you know, in the interest of making, I mean, I think, you know, one of the beauties of this historically is that it's really pretty simple. And I think ideally we would keep it pretty simple, because otherwise, you know, I mean, if somebody has to spend 2 extra days just figuring out the social services budget
Right.
based on, you know, evaluating a whole bunch of different things, that would be unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, but I think we should look to other towns and see who does it well and how they do it. And if,
Yeah.
and, you know, maybe there's an easy way to do it, and maybe there isn't. I'm guessing for the most part, probably not, but it's worth finding out.
I'm curious how Brattleboro does it, because they have huge, like, what they do is astronomical
Much
compared
larger,
to.
yeah.
Who was that, Laura, in here?
Brattleboro.
Brattleboro.
Yeah.
It's a really different,
Yeah.
Different set of needs and different set of criteria,
Right.
but yes, a bigger budget.
Yeah, more funding.
Okay. Sidewalk update?
Yeah,
yes.
There's really no, we're waiting on the handrail in that one area by the hydrant.
so.
So they have to remobilize and put it up, but,
And that's basically, I mean, we're not changing much about, it's just elongating it a little
yes,
bit more, is that right?
correct, yep. So once that happens, we can do a final walkthrough and maybe ribbon cutting ceremony. Landmark College called and was wondering what we're gonna do. So the end of the month is the deadline, but to do the final walkthrough.
And
to have everything
does
done.
that affect our grant recuperation? Okay, so it's not a deadline in that
So
sense.
it's been a change order, you know, to
Yeah,
extend.
yeah. No, it occurred to me, and it's obviously too late to do, but it's sort of too late. It would have been kind of nice to have a ribbon cutting / Halloween parade come down from up there.
Oh,
but
that would have been
I
fun.
think it's too late, probably.
Why is it too late? Halloween's next week.
The people that are organizing that are amazing.
No, I mean too late. Is
Oh,
it too
yeah.
late to organize
Yeah.
it? Not too late.
I don't know,
I
we'll
don't
have
know.
Landmark College, I'll call Landmark
See if they'll do a Halloween parade for
I'm
us.
sure they'll be able to.
I think that could be
Why
kind of fun,
not?
you know?
Can we get
They're
the,
students, I think it'd be nice.
we should get the Putney Central School kids to craft giant scissors.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Just for Fun
Right.
parade, when we used to do after picking season.
And then have
we used to
like
have
a real
parade
air
up and
show
down
there like that.
at the end of picking season.
Just
All
for
the
fun.
hippies and, you know, all the apple pickers and.
Alyssa, can you
local
get on
guys.
that for us,
We have
please?
birds
Yes.
every year.
Thank
It's
you.
easier than that. It was great fun. We all landed at Curtis's and had lunch.
We already talked about the animal control,
Yeah.
right?
Animal control, we touched base on already. Reminder about Kimball Hill being closed on October 31st, so
Yeah.
a parade on October 31st would be okay.
That's sort of what I was
Yes.
thinking, but it's on Route 5, which complicates, but I just think it would be kind of a fun way to
Right.
introduce it.
Everybody could park at Landmark and
Yeah,
hike down on,
right,
yeah.
right.
And then
So
treat up and.
Possibility,
Melissa's on that.
good.
You didn't know that was a part of your job
So
description?
enthusiastic.
Route 5 bridge right out here, replacement of the decking. There's a public hearing scheduled for November 14th. These flyers are going around. David, I think I gave you.
You gave me one
flyer.
earlier, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in that pile over there.
The public hearing will be held at the fire station. I don't have a time yet, so.
It's amazing, I'd forgotten this was
Is
even.
it on there?
It's amazing.
5:30. 5:30.
And
Yeah.
this must have been 6 years ago, we started to.
So
Really, that long.
Route
What
5
is it
will
you said
be
about Route 5?
closed for 2 weeks at the end of June.
Right.
This project needs to be completed by July 3rd. So, public forum, everybody's invited, all the stakeholders have been notified. General store, basketball, winery, landmark, the mill. So it's
Yeah, it
important.
affects the mill.
Yes,
A
a lot. So anyone in the immediate area will be impacted.
Is there any plans to, maybe, I don't know what could be done, like, we can't pave Sand Hill, but I imagine the wear and tear on Sand Hill is gonna be pretty incredible.
Well, we were just talking, I'm not sure.
There's way too much for that bridge.
I would think so. I don't know what that bridge is rated
Tractor
for.
trailer trucks won't be utilizing Sand Hill.
How do they get
So
the stuff?
they'll have to go all the way up to exit 5.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go to Westminster, come down Route 5, make a wide turn into Water Street.
Will they be warned of this on the highway so that there's, so
Yeah.
they can be detoured in advance?
All
if
of
they're-
that
This is,
Okay.
information will be presented.
yeah,
Okay.
no, and this has all been,
November 14th.
this was all, we've gone through this before.
Yeah.
That's why I mean, I literally had forgotten this was happening because it's been so long, but.
I feel like it
Like all
hasn't
of
been in
this-
my time.
No, it
This-
hasn't, no, it was
yeah.
like 5 years ago
Yeah.
at least. And it was all discussed, and then they delayed it for some reason, I can't remember why. But it's coming back around, but there was a period, they did all borings and all sorts of
Yeah.
things there
I
to
think
test
it's
all that
funding.
out. And- Yeah, no,
Because
but,
it's not a priority, so projects get pushed for higher priority.
but there was a plan with Soundview at that time as to how they were gonna do
Yeah.
it. So, it's up, the other, obviously, fire department, I think the plan was to stage something on the north side.
Oh, that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
don't know, Tom, but Tom.
I didn't
Tom-
hear that, but.
You didn't, Tom will have.
Yeah. So back to your question, there is grant funding because of this project.
Uh-huh.
It's minimal, so I'll have to look at it. But yes, there's money for us to repair the road
To
after
maintain
Yeah.
the
the traffic,
traffic.
because
Yeah.
it's gonna,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, and if it's raining, and traffic's
Yeah.
going that way, it could be an issue. But,
yeah, that
I learned
road is really not ready for that kind of
Right.
traffic.
So no tractor trailers up there. I'm sure you're gonna get UPS, FedEx. You might get some of the smaller box trucks, but, that road is narrow there. Traffic's gonna be slowed down a little bit, but,
It's
anything
really
that
a
we
one
do
lane bridge.
preemptively to-
I mean,
Right, yeah.
so,
Make it
all
safer.
right, well,
Well, it's really a state, I mean, this is state, so
It's
this
a
is
state
up
project,
to
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But, those questions should come up at this
Yeah.
discussion. I think we already had a public meeting about this, as I recall, but.
And that bridge also will be closed to pedestrians. So you're
that
not
makes
even-
sense.
You're not even gonna be able to cross walking.
That's a bummer, but it makes
So
sense.
Landmark will have to shuttle their students. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 2 weeks, I think we can,
That's what they're saying, they're saying 2 weeks to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
if they don't shut it down,
They
it'll take
won't
a lot
have-
longer.
They won't have very many students in June.
Right.
No.
That's the
it's
timing is
really
good.
not,
Yeah.
It was well planned.
So, I want to report on the highway department. I sat down and spoke to Brian. They've been really busy. I don't know if you noticed, but grading is happening around town.
I've definitely noticed.
He's been up in your Tavern Hill and
Just
Yeah.
Dusty
Hall-
Ridge.
They
yeah.
were on,
Yeah.
they were on Bunker Road.
Huge improvement.
Yes.
Right.
Holland Hill,
Whatever.
Holland Hill was getting done
Yep.
this week with the side roads. Putney Mountain Road will be next week with Leon Wood banning, and then East Putney, they'll come back. They'll be last because they're right there. But,
I have to say, I'm pleased with how the roads look when they're done grading. I
Thank
mean,
you,
they're
'cause-
doing a good job. I mean,
So-
I think
Jason's
Jason
doing
is
grading.
the operator
Yeah,
for the
that's-
grader.
and he's
He's getting training.
better all the time.
Yes.
And also just the York braking is nicely, I think that, historically, we were all used to the crown being much higher and the roads are much flatter, but that's because of state recommendation,
Right.
best practice, and from what I observe, it's working well. I
Yeah.
mean, the roads seem to stay in,
Yeah.
we have the problems that the roads have, but
Right.
And the
they're pretty
crown
nice.
being lower, that's for slow shed.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't
It's-
shut off too
yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
and overwhelm the
Exactly,
culverts.
yeah. No, it's all, and it's part of that same program where they're doing riprap in the drainage ditches,
Removing
et cetera.
berms and-
Yeah, all
yeah.
sorts of things, and
Yeah.
Just try to stop plugging the culverts in a heavy rain and that kind of stuff.
and just stop losing as much material into the watershed,
Mhm.
yeah. Seems to work.
They're preparing equipment for winter, so they're getting the plows ready and, anything associated with that. They're not on the trucks yet, but they are getting ready for winter. One other tidbit that I actually learned today, so there's 500 culverts in Putney.
Holy smokes.
500, and they are cleaned twice a year. That's a lot of work. So I just want to throw that out there. So not only are they maintaining our dirt roads, and they have culverts they got to deal with too.
And they're doing the mowing and
Ditching.
The other thing that's notable about, the last several years, and I don't know what the numbers are, but we have replaced a huge number of culverts in the last
Big ones, Holland
5
Hill.
or 6 years. Well, all of those big ones, but
Yep.
a ton of little ones too.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Yes,
just, there's,
the little ones.
that we're more, seems to me, we're more ahead of culvert replacement than we
Yeah.
ever were historically. but-
So when Brian does paving also, he will replace the culverts
Culverts on-
before the
right.
new paving goes down.
Mhm.
So Westminster Road, those
Several new
culverts, there's like
culverts.
6 culverts that they replaced.
Yes.
So that takes time.
Mhm.
And when you have a couple guys doing traffic,
It's gotta be flagging and everything.
you got
yeah.
one operating equipment, you got dump trucks running, so
Double
it
gang.
takes a while. That was 3.2 miles of road
Yeah.
Mhm.
and culverts.
Right.
And are we, is Brian, I don't know whether you've talked about it really, is he happy with the paving job?
Yes,
Good.
yep, and
It's completed, I saw, they
it's
finished it
completed,
out.
the state is gonna, schedule the lining for the center line and the
Yeah.
white lines.
Yeah,
So the state
does that.
schedules
Yeah.
that, and they do it. So Dummerston just had paving done, Westminster also had paving done, so I imagine they're gonna schedule everybody at the same
I
time
would think
and
so,
just run the
yeah.
paint. The crosswalk's been done.
I saw that, and school markings,
Yeah,
yeah.
the lights again are acting up.
I saw Steve out there driving.
They were fixed They weren't communicating with one another. They got them going, but they're down again, so Josh King will be back up there working on those. We're still trying to troubleshoot it. The new truck should arrive late next week. Happy Halloween. Maybe we can put it in the parade.
There you go.
It won't fit on the sidewalk.
Quick coat orange paint for the holiday.
So we're anticipating that. They're also ditching in various places. South Pine Banks Road has been done from start to finish. So if you see rock or vegetation in the ditches, they're doing that. Brian and I will be meeting with Wyndham Regional next week to go over the road erosion inventory projects. He's looking at possibly doing Holland Hill and Parkman Wood up there.
This is that same riprap in the, that's.
Yes,
all that,
yeah, and that's grants and aid that we obtained, so it's like $21,600.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's like a 20, I think ours is either 10 or 20%. I think it's 20, the match.
Which is mostly in kind, as I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so the guys do the work and
Right.
then
Right.
we don't.
And we maximize the amount
Yep.
of riprap that we
Yep.
can purchase with that money, yeah.
So that was a lot from him today, so I appreciated that. He's working on his budget as well as Tom's, so, you know.
And I know we approved the contract. Has the blasting happened yet?
It has not started.
It
I'm
hasn't.
glad you brought that up because he did mention that too. I asked him.
At the
Um,
Yeah.
So Basin was awarded the contract, but the guys trucked some Sure-Pack down to the gravel pit because what Brian intends to do is take the crushed material and mix it in with the Sure-Pack.
Mhm.
Gives them a better
Yeah.
consistency to work with on the roads. He likes it better that way, so, but they have not started crushing yet.
It's just crushing, it's not blasting, I missed.
Right. It is just crushing.
Yeah.
So 3,500 cubic yards is what's expected for the town of Putney.
Sounds good.
What else? I think that's it.
All right, warrants, excuse me.
I move to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review.
And I second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve and execute warrants as presented upon review. All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll warrant dated October 18th, 2019, in the amount of $8,537.43, library and town employees. This is for you. It's the payroll warrant dated October 25th, 2019, in the amount of $9,361.20. This includes on-call, fire department, and our rec league, along with town employees. Accounts payable dated October 12th through October 25th, 2019, in the amount of $123,706.64. In this warrant there is an invoice for Zaluzny in the amount of $31,238.35. Another one for Pathways Consulting, who's a resident engineer on the sidewalk project, $36,309.95.
And those are both final payments? No.
No.
Saluzny's not a final.
No,
Is
there's,
that final for Pathways?
No, no.
Not quite, almost. I
yeah.
mean, it's almost a complete
Yeah, I'm
payment.
thinking like we're at
10% maybe.
Yeah, we're at 90% complete now. So medical insurance is in here. County taxes are in here. But if you took out those two contractor invoices, we have a small warrant. So I'll make an announcement again about taxes being due on November 15th. Tax payments have been coming in. We did receive our utility payments too, those came in. They look good, so.
Did Landmark pay their share of the sidewalk thing? Is that due?
They will not, I'll have a conversation with John, but I think once we have the ribbon cutting, I think
Got it.
we'll see payment.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on that.
Yeah. Just curious.
Reminds me, we must be up against negotiations for donations,
For municipal services.
either this year or next year.
I-
Not for, yeah.
We need to do it, and I need to sit down. I'm working with Tom because,
The breakdown.
yeah,
It's
The
only a
increase-
guideline.
yeah. So the increases in services are not matching donations. But yes, I'm working on that as well.
Okay.
And I'll present that to the board before anything is finalized, by the way. Because right now, the donations is 56,000.
That was in the last
Correct.
round, so
Yes.
yeah.
From all of the, you're talking about all of the nonprofits?
No, private schools.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what I meant.
all of those who donate
Yeah.
to that,
Yeah.
yes, the total is 56.
Okay.
And that has increased, I want to say the first time we did it, it's been in 5-year rounds, I believe.
And I'm thinking-
Maybe 3 years.
No, I think it's 5, but it's not clear from the documents I found.
It was
And-
about 30,000 the first time it was done, as I recall.
I think
And then it's been-
2019 is like, that's why I need to be.
Right, no, I think that's what I was saying, I think
Yes,
we're at 5
yeah,
years.
Yes.
No, I think that's right.
No, you are correct in that statement.
But I'm just, you know, I think the first time we did it, which was in, I don't know, roughly 2007, 2008, it was about 30,000, now it's at 56, and I think that took me
Yeah.
off.
And does that include, like Landmark's portion of the sidewalk?
No.
Okay,
Separate,
that's
right?
totally
No,
separate.
that's totally
Separate.
separate, yeah. So, I believe, I'll work with Tom and we may be having a representative from the schools
Mhm.
come down and discuss. I gotta get the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been,
Right.
historically, it hasn't been strictly based on services, so just so you know that, that's not how it has been done. That's been a piece of the information, but it doesn't necessarily reflect that exactly.
Okay,
Um,
I think when I dive into it,
yeah,
yeah. Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's fire protection, rescue. And
technically,
not
it's-
rescue per
technically it's
se,
not.
but
Well,
EMS from,
That's not the way it was originally designed, I don't believe, but I could be
Policing?
wrong. We changed it into sort of a public safety issue. I mean, didn't change it, but sort of agreed. I don't think that was a formal select board thing, but that became clear. I mean, initially it was to cover the debt on the fire department.
Correct.
And then it has grown, and the debt, because of the way the debt structure is for that, the debt has decreased. So it's allowed us to put it more towards public safety budget. But there is not a direct relationship between the two. I don't believe in the thinking behind it. And that doesn't
Okay.
mean there shouldn't be.
Right.
But historically, there was not necessarily that, because otherwise, it's hard to make it equitable based on that. You know,
And Tom and I-
tax
yeah.
base is important to look at.
Right.
You know, there's a bunch of different.
Yeah, grand
components
list
to it.
value.
Yeah.
We look at that too. So
Right.
Tom and I have started discussing how to approach that, and
Yeah.
we'll bring it to the board anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So be prepared.
All right.
Girl Scout, I'm always prepared.
Do we have any other business, other than all the other business we've been talking about?
I was gonna talk about the town fair meeting, but I'm gonna put it off until 2 weeks from now because I'm exhausted.
Okay.
No?
And we do want to have an executive session, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, good. So is there a motion to enter executive session under Title 1 VSA 313, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during that open meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
I
don't think we're gonna have a decision.
I don't think we're gonna have anything either,
No.
so, if there is, we'll inform you, but
Yes.
Next meeting?
Our next meeting is,
November 6th.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.